Hello, and welcome to the Lions Den podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lyons. Yes, we are a little late with our recap, but we are here because there is a lot to talk about and get into about these episodes of Traitors. I was out of town, so we had to wait and come back and talk about what was going on in the episodes 8 through 10. So instead of us going and talking about, breaking down what happened in each exact episode, we're just going to really generally talk about the episode because I think at this point, the strategy conversation is probably the most important than necessarily going over what happened in the episode. But of course, before we get started, we got to go over our house den rules. First thing, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've been at this for a while, but really love some more followers and engagement over here on the podcast. So please make sure to do all those things. Also, we're talking about real people, but we don't know these people, and we're only going to talk about them in context to the show. So anything that we say is in the context of the show. We don't really know these people, and everything we say is alleged if we bring in information around them. So just want to get those things out the way. You also know, as when we're here at the Lions Den, if you got a drink, doesn't matter what it is, feel free to do that as we talk, but what's going on with Traitors. And also, if we're feeling messy, if we're feeling petty, we're gonna put on our shades to alert you that we about to go into some things and talk about some stuff. Okay, so all of that being said, let's get started. We're picking up with Candace getting eliminated out of Traitors game. And as you guys know, I've had a pick. I'm trying to pull up my notes and the board so you all can see who I am speaking of, just to give you guys a visual. But yeah, at this point, you guys know that I have had a list of people that I want who have been rooting for. They are my draft picks, and at this point, we might as well hang it up flat screen with these picks. But I meant to come back with and give you like where they're X'd out, but we unfortunately do not have that. I hope you guys can see me. Yeah, I want to make sure you guys can see everything clear. But so we've had our draft picks. As you can see, this is the list of the cast this season. And we so far are at this point where Candace is in the game. We have Moira, Kristen, Tara, Rob, Mark, Steven is here, and Johnny and Eric. They are currently what's left in the game at this point. And at this point, Candace has done she's doing a pretty good job, I think. The only thing is we're here in the turret and they're going over who should be murdered. And Colton is also here at this time. And they're going over options on who should be murdered. And Candace obviously wants to marry Colton because he had her name in her mouth. And Rob, that's Rob's number one person. He really did not want to do that, but he allows her to do it. Now, do I think getting rid of Colton or murdering Colton in itself is a bad idea? No, because he should have been gone. However, he should have been gone, right? Like we've talked about this before, where those type of archetypes are very dangerous in games like this because they are able to gallivant and influence the group so well that it's very hard for you to get rid of them, and they hold a lot of influence and they know how to rally people together, and that's not what you want as a traitor. So he should have been gone. I think that if at this point in the game, if Candace wanted to get him gone, she should have solidified an alliance, and a group. I've also talked about this where it feels like this season, the faithfuls do not work together. They don't work together. They don't communicate. They don't talk. They don't share information. And they also aren't really loyal to each other. And thus, which is why I think the Traitors overall were more successful this season because they're just not. So she really should have made made sure that she solidified that move, meaning you have people who have your back no matter what in the event there is backlash, because you don't know, you know that he has suspected you, but you don't know as far, and you do know that Rob and Colton have a relationship, and he just burned Lisa. Lisa is currently gone because of Rob. So I'm not going to say that I think this was her downfall necessarily. I don't think this particularly was her downfall because it's not information she was given. Rob could have given that information. He didn't. Why didn't Rob get that? Because he wanted to bro it out. Because Rob doesn't like women. He does not. He has an issue with women. I have said this before and I will stand on that. He has an issue with women. Okay. So he was wanting this to roll out in the way that it did because he wanted to get rid of those traitors and rock it to the end. So, I mean, strategically, Rob is doing what he needs to do. Was it necessary? I don't think so. It's very cutthroat. And I think that's where, because people are bringing up Sari. And I think Sari has the ability to be cutthroat, but it's necessary play. I think Rob did a lot of unnecessary play, but because he is a white male and has charisma, it works. Yeah, I said what I said. So here we are. Well, of course, that leads people directly to Candace because Colton had said that in front of a few people and was suspicious. And I believe it was Natalie, it was Kristen, I believe. So of course, at that point, it had people were now suspecting Candace with the help of Rob adding to it. And like in the same similar way that he did with Lisa. And so, but she was at least given a heads up because her and Johnny were also very close. Now, this is where, again, I think the faithfuls have lost the plot because traitor out of it, right? If I'm looking at my board, I'm looking at my game, and I see that there is an alliance, there's people that are close, obviously to Rob, and he has garnered a support group. People don't want to touch him, even if I don't think he's a traitor. As another faithful, where I see that there is a divide or there is something forming, I should still want it in my favor, traitor aside, from a faithful game perspective. So if I am Johnny, y'all should have solidified an alliance with Candace, with Mark, with Tara at that time, with Steven at that time, and with Eric, like maybe Eric, because I don't know, he was really loyal. See, get a post on Natalie during that time, and Kristen, I think they could have pulled. Though, and Mark, you allowed him to get snatched up by Rob. Those were because if Steven would have came, I think Mark would have came. Even if I'm trying to find a traitor, I have to set my game up for the end. And the faithfuls just did a horrible job of doing that. They just collectively did. Yes, you focus on a traitor, but how do I still get to the end with my people so that we can control the end game? That has been driving me crazy. That moment, Johnny should have built an alliance. When you saw that something was fortifying with the side of Rob, an alliance should have been built, and everybody should be following and voting the same way to control, because they had control of the votes at one point with Lisa, and he threw it all away. So Rob swooped in and took control of the game. That is something that should have taken place as faithfuls. Where I think Candace overall messed up was she was too loyal to the traitors. I'm gonna say that is where I think it was wrong, because she handled herself at that round table like a pro. Like, to me, her round table was really not that bad. It was just the fact that Rob had more numbers at that point and people trusted him. And her votes were, in a way, she was voting consistently, but her answers made sense. But everybody has their behind up Rob's butt. So she answered the questions, I think, to the best of her ability. She didn't shake, she wasn't wavering. I just think that you all did not solidify votes, and then you're dealing with faithfuls who aren't strategizing. So, because, okay, if I'm Johnny and I find out that I think Candace is a traitor, well, that benefits me because I'm here for a reason because of her. So why would I get rid of someone who's in my favor? Why not get rid of someone who's not? Okay? Yeah. They're not thinking. They don't think. So, because he ends up voting her out as well, which was like, oh, wow. Now, the person who didn't vote for her was Natalie. I purely feel like Natalie did not vote for her because of being a person of color. I think that was, and because Natalie did not vote for her in her, or didn't, or she did not vote for Natalie in last week when Natalie caught some heat with the poison situation. So I think Natalie was returning the favor, and you, of course, were looking up and recognizing, oh, there's no more color folk in here. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So I think that's what that was. I mean, I think that was pretty obvious, to me at least. But of course, people are using anything, grasping at straws to maybe use it against you a little bit later. So, in the event, my girl Candace gets voted out, banished. And I was so upset because I said, not on Black History Month. This is not supposed to happen on Black History Month. We are like, this is not supposed to happen on Black History Month. Oh, I was livid. It's been some weeks, so I don't calm down. But I will also say another mistake was absolutely when she made the decision to get rid of Monet. She had crippled herself with allies, and because she was very loyal to the Traitors, I think that absolutely played a role in it as well. And I think those things are just hold a little bit more weight than necessarily, because we could argue all day long, was her vote emotional or not, but it's like Rob has literally done the same thing. It's just, and y'all aren't calling it emotional, and it was. He did emotionally vote for Lisa. He didn't have to screw her over like that. He didn't even have to do that with Candace, like, necessarily. He didn't have to do that. And I think if we're going to talk about Candace and her voting that way, we have to also talk about Rob and him voting that way. They, to me, are the same. He didn't have to do it. He didn't. Either way, Rob would have, I think, made it this far. I think they would have suspected those two over. He was probably the most comfortable, insulated. Thank you. I cannot remember the word. He was the most insulated, probably traitor that there was. So he did not have to do that. It was out of emotion. So I will stand on that. And I still think she played a great game. I think she played the best game as a housewife. For sure. I will give her that. She played a good traitor game. I think she just, once she recognized who she was dealing with, which was Rob and how he's playing, and he's a snake, that it was too late. And if she would have, I wish she would have, I think she knew, but I think that's when you move. You don't wait to get bit by the snake. You make a plan beforehand, right? You set up a trap ahead of time. And I think he just beat her to the punch. I might find it interesting that he wanted to say that this was all just a game, and it's like, but you literally just made an emotional play last week. But also, why do we need to say that when you made this ruthless move and didn't have to. Like, you are showing disloyalty and you are now going to throw it on Candace that, what are you doing? And it's like, but no, you started this. You're the one that created this distrust, but now you're blaming me. Yeah, story of a black woman. I do agree that when it comes to this season in particular, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit more, you absolutely are seeing misogyny. You're absolutely seeing microaggressions come into play this season. I think a little bit more than ever, because it just logically doesn't make sense as to what is going on. It doesn't make any sense. It just, God, quite frankly, doesn't make any sense. But we get that to happen. So upset. At this point, I'm down one per player draft pick. Okay. So we're moving along. Next episode, we get a opportunity where girl, I gotta get my bearings on. Okay. We are picking up with the next episode, episode 9. Up. So yeah, picking up with the next episode, people are now getting suspicious of Johnny because they feel like, because of his reaction that he did have with Candace getting voted out, that he felt defeated and sad, that they thought that was very suspicious. And then they were like, oh, because she had advocated for you to get that shield that one time, she may have been trying to help a traitor out. Mind you, a murder has happened. Rob is having to choose someone to replace, and because you can't be a traitor by yourself. If they say that, excuse me, if they don't want to be a traitor, then they have to be banished. So pretty much you're forcing them to become a traitor. And he chooses Eric. You know, the Eric with the good hearing, the Eric that has been wrong but keeps being called smart the entire game. I'm like, be so for real. Be so for real. I'm tired of hearing that. Like, he's so smart. No, he's not actually. He's been wrong. He's been wrong. So whatever. But anyway, but really we know Rob is doing this because he knows that like Eric would not be a good trader, and he is a yet another shield to have in front of him because no one is looking at him still. And so but he accepts he is now a traitor and he is a nervous wreck. God knows, like, I was like, yeah, he's gonna be found out. Like, it's not a matter of if but when at this point. But they did now want to paint the target on Johnny because of his reaction. And honestly, it didn't really make sense to me. Only because it's like, okay, so she wanted Johnny to get a shield. Okay. But she also voted for Rob. So my thing is, if I can think of Johnny in that moment, why would I not also think of Candace in her votes? I mean, it was like they refused to ever consider Rob, which was asinine to me. I mean, out of their mouths were like, so we know it's not Rob. How do you know that it's not Rob? Like, come on. Let's look at what just happened here. You got rid of Lisa. He was not really that vocal, not really that active around the round table, but he guns and he makes a very strong decree and plea at the table, thinking that it was Heavenly Lisa. The following week, or that week, Candace votes for him. People think, oh, out of the blue. Okay. The next week, Candace votes for him again. I believe she threw 2 votes on him. And you all didn't say, do you think this was traitor on traitor? Like, why? Come on. And then also, Eric and Rob decide that they're going to murder Dorinda. So that is the last housewife. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that this should have directly fed them that it was Rob, but why not at least consider? And the fact that they would lack consideration, it just does. It speaks to the fact that Rob is a white male with a lot of charisma, looks good, and you believe and trust everything he says. But meanwhile, you have other black players, black women who don't aren't given that same grace or same passivity. Like, oh, it's not them. You only do that for him, but you don't do that everyone else. We're looking at every little thing, but we don't do that for Rob. What? I'm like, please. It was so annoying. So it was just kind of like, I don't understand why they had jumped to Johnny, and I get why Rob and Eric did, right? Because they needed someone to target, but it's like, everyone else, what are you getting at? Like, that makes no sense. So it's the refusal to look at this pattern is absolutely ridiculous. I'm gonna say I think they are the dumbest faithfuls we've had, because I know we talk about season one, but like, no, they, like, I feel like they are worse because they just refuse to think outside the box here, when I feel like the answers are just pretty clear. Like, it's not that hard to get to thinking. um yeah, I also want to say Mara is getting on my nerves. God almighty, that look, oh, she getting me so bad, I have never seen such a player have themselves up another player's behind so much. It don't make no doggone sense how much she up Raw's behind. I'm like, are you kidding me? And that right there, and this is why I say that the Faithfuls really were not playing the best Faithful game, because you all should have gotten rid of her once y'all realized that, oh, Mara's gonna do whatever Rob says. Mara's gonna speak out whenever Rob or Colton are saying things. That is a person that you murder. You cripple that person. And I can't say that I think that it was a better person to murder over Colton, because I feel like Candace would have had heat on her either way. I think at that point she would have had to be ready, because Colton was gonna come for her. He wasn't gonna necessarily let up. Um, and but so it's hard to really say. But Mara is a person that should have been gone when you immediately clock that, oh, she's going along with these people, and so they have a number in her. Yeah, she got to go. And in Rob, y'all should have, if they weren't so loyal to being a traitor, if I got rid of Monet, which probably should have never happened, Mara has to go too. So that's how you work that. Or Colt, like, come on now. So that was a missed opportunity, but she should have been gone. She should have been off the show. And that is also evidence in a breadcrumb. Why is Mara still here? Why? She's an early boot person. Why? No one's asking that question? Okay. So in this situation, I think that they are shortlisted of people who are being tagged of potentially being a traitor, because they do play a game. Now, I will say, I will talk about this game a little bit, because I do think it does tie into the strategy of it. But essentially, Rob and Eric have to, they're asked a question. Everyone has to vote, thinking of who this traitor might think this question applies to, and they decide to do a strategy of specifically targeting Tara, because they know that it's going to make her pretty much panic and freak out. And they know that Johnny and to do it to either or will be good on who to murder, because Tara still has some heat from her from that poison episode, and I think she did, yeah, her and Natalie have a rocky situation, a relationship. So Um, I want to say that we get to the game. I want to say this is where we really see that, like, y'all don't be using y'all brains for real. So, like I said, they're playing the game and they have to write out who they think is a traitor. And we see that the strategy that Rock has came up with is, let's put Tara's name down multiple times so we don't show our cards on who we think these questions connect and relate to. I'm not going to say that it was a bad strategy. I think that maybe you should have, because okay, I saw this somewhere, and this is a fair point. If it has been 3 women who have been traitors, statistically it has to be a man. And so maybe I choose, which, I mean, Johnny, again, it didn't make sense to me because why would he kill Carolyn, um, Dorinda? I'm sorry, I call her Carolyn. Dorinda, your murder didn't make sense to where it could have been Johnny, but you could have said Mark. You could have said Steven, because Steven probably was more likely because there were more eyes on Steven at that point. So you maybe should have done a male, then do Tara, because at least from, I would not think that it was Tara. And so Johnny and Tara clearly, like, they caught on to what was going on, so they're like, no, we're just gonna do what we want because you're trying to rattle me, and I'm not gonna do that. And still everyone else is like, that's suspicious. Y'all are y'all, I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying to be, but, like, you got to be kidding me right now. you you have to be kidding me right now, because Kristen is convinced. Yeah, it's like, girl, Miss Girl, you cannot sit here and think that, oh, it has to be Tara or Johnny because that's who they use. Tara. Like, y'all, again, the refusal to look at the information that y'all have and then just create your own is wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. Like, they continue to do that. Natalie does start to move towards, okay, well, it has to be a guy. She was feeling in her gut that it was Steven. And I'm like, okay. So we've just completely ignored the breadcrumbs that Candace, cool. And what doesn't really make sense to me with her thinking that it was Steven, because she keeps going back to the fact that Lisa put the rocks in Steven's container, and she was trying to figure out, well, why did you choose him out of all people? Mind you, you didn't question it when it was happening to Rob. And then I'm pretty sure at the last round table, because Steven's name came up as well, Dorinda said that he asked. So Lisa did it. Like, so what are you suspicious about? Like, I was like, did I hear that wrong? And if I did, let me know, but I really don't think so. But I'm just like, what was the confusion? Because that was addressed in the last episode where she said that Lisa just he asked Lisa, because you can I have him, and she said yeah, she put him in there. So for you to think that that was traitor, but again, you couldn't, you wouldn't come and jump to the conclusion of what Candace said at the round table. Y'all are getting me. Like, I make it make sense. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. So at this point, Natalie is pushing for Steven. It wasn't what Eric or Rob were pushing for, but they were like, sure, which probably was a better play. Like, it worked. It's a better thing to do, because I think Steven was more independent in his opinion, and you see that, Johnny and Tara can be probably manipulated a little bit more, as we'll see. So yeah, Steven is now up for, and when we get to banishment, he's now potentially, he now has to fight for his life at this round table. I don't think that he handled himself bad either, because again, like, what do you say to people who are just not really working with logic? I mean, he answered his question, I think, to the best of his ability, where he was just like, it's, your points don't really make sense. Um, and including that one, it was just like, why are y'all acting like, okay, omitting information from here? So, oh, it's getting so annoying. It's getting so annoying. Sorry guys, that was definitely an accident to hit that, but yeah, Kristen thinks that it is Steven, even though, she does point out that, like, oh, well, why did, Candace voted for you again? And it was like, okay, so maybe let's sit in that. Can we sit in that a little bit? No. Because again, his answer was, oh, she was just probably trying to help the traitors out or faithfuls out or something like that. And it's like, you want to unpack that a little bit more? Like, you could have said, what do you mean? Like, let him keep talking, it was like, are you so serious? Again, the refusal is killing me. So then she also clocks Eric's behavior, because he's now kind of being more quiet, because he is a quiet player, but he would also speak up if he needed to speak up. So they noticed that as well. But amongst all of this, right, Johnny knows that he's gotten some heat because of his connection to Candace. And so he is preparing himself to go on the round table. I think you can kind of tell that they're not really they think they say it, that he's not a confrontational person. They decide that they're going to go in, him and Tara are going to go in as a unified unit, let everybody know that they are friends, and they're going to just defend themselves to the best of their ability. When I say this is the dumbest thing, the dumbest. I'm like, I was like, excuse me, huh? We get into the round table, right? Of course, they're asking Johnny questions, and Johnny is answering them to the best of his ability. He's making the points very clear that I was close to her, but I didn't know what was going on. The way that we played this game was because we knew that you were putting Tara's name. He answered in a way that was, they believed it. So why did you guys feel like you needed to announce that you guys were actually best friends? We are, I think, at this point, 1 round table away from the finale, from the end. And you think it was smart to tell people that you all are a duo? It gets to a point, guys. It gets to a point. So they tell people that, they tell them this, and everyone's looking like, okay, so what you're telling us is you have the ability to lie, because you omitted this whole time that you guys are friends. Okay. So in my opinion, that did not help them. It guarantees a target on the back. Like, I don't see a world where both of them are going to end up in the end or win. Like, I don't see a world where that happens. You just told everyone you guys are a duo. And you didn't really have to, because you all were able to defend yourselves. Even Tara got a little bit of heat, but it was just like, the evidence was not really there, and they were able to tell people that. So it was like, why did you feel like you all needed to do that? Like, it was the dumbest thing. It was the dumbest thing. It really was. Like, it was the dumbest thing. So Um, I just don't understand. Um, yeah, I didn't really care for the ending of the episode either, but I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's just like, are you kidding me? So, um, I think that in this moment things shift, and I think at that point, because again we got to look at who is left in this situation, it's whatever, they're gonna go with Rob, they're gonna go with what was said, they're gonna go whatever to omit that he is the traitor, so they end up going with Steven. Of course they find out that they are dead wrong, and after this is where we have the conversation between Eric and Kristen, where she was like, you are just really quiet. Like, what's going on? And you can literally see Eric shaking, like he cannot. And I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm like, okay. Okay, I would rather you do Rob, but yeah. So let's sit in that. Well, we get to the Tarrant and we find out like Rob does end up telling Eric. So they have to decide, because with that game that they played, there was a short list of people that they could murder. And I think that's what made Natalie kind of take a step back, because um like Johnny and Tara both were selected to potentially be murdered that night, along with Natalie and Kristen. So it was like, well, if he's a traitor, which is possible, but why would you select your? I don't even know if you're allowed to. Well, yes, you. I guess you. They have been selected, but in this way, in this case, it was they got to choose, not necessarily of who was left over in that way. Like through a chat, like it was a little bit different. So that kind of made her be like, well, it's probably not Johnny. And of course, when he spoke, she believed him. But so they're deciding if they're going to get rid of Kristen, because Kristen flat out told Mark, like, hey, if I get murdered, then you know that it's Eric. And we leave off the episode to find out who did they decide to murder. Okay. So after this happens, we pick up with the last episode, episode 10, and we find out who they decide that they're going to murder. They do this whole Jack in the Box thing. I'm going to be honest with you. This is getting really boring. I I understand, like, it's supposed to be suspenseful, like who are they going to murder? But I feel like if you're not going to do or offer any additional incentives when you do these twists or murders in plain sight, it gets stale and old. Like, it was fun the first time at the dinner, but now that we keep doing these things, it's like, okay, I get it, I guess, to keep it, I guess, to make it different, sure, but like not really. It's kind of boring to me, and so I'm like very over it at this point. Maybe it's maybe also a reflection of who's left in the game. That could be it, but let me know what you guys think. I just felt like it was a bit overkill, because it's like, okay, we get it, like Jack in a Box, we're gonna see who gets murdered, just spit it out. I don't know, I'm just kind of got over it. But we pick up to the next episode and we find out that they have decided to murder Kristen. So you can see where all the strategy wasn't necessarily, Rob's strategy isn't as tight as I think you guys are giving it, because I think that this was a very bad move. When I saw this, I was like, why wasn't it Natalie? Which that's my last draft pick, mind you. But it was just like, okay, that's on the nose. Kristen did tell someone, which I know you don't know that, but she's also your ally. And at that point, I mean, Rob has a lot of unlimited allies, which is why he could afford to lose Colton and he could afford to lose Kristen at this point, or even Natalie at this point, because he has them. So, I mean, that's just where he is at the game. So it's just like, okay, but why her? Because you have that relationship, if you want to keep Eric protected, you could just talk her off of in that direction, or better yet, just let Eric take the fall and you go out scotch free because we literally, this is the last round table. So, but he does it for Eric because now he wants to be loyal and protect him. Mind you, he didn't really have that for the other ladies, but we clocked that. And um so of course the thing that they were concerned would happen there was with Natalie, and they knew they needed to get Natalie out, but what they were concerned about did happen. She started to sit and think about the game, which is very late, might I add. But and she did it with the help of Tara. Tara wakes up and just goes, well, wait a minute, because Jesus, Jesus, Lord have mercy. Maybe it's a little delay. I don't know, with skating. They hit their head sometimes. I don't know, but it was a little delay. But I thank you for getting there. I thank you for getting there. I thank you for getting there. She gets there. She goes, what if it's Rob? Because he would be the most unlikely. Look at who's still here. It could be Rob. I feel like it's Rob. She gets Natalie fully invested into it could be Rob. And at first, I'm with them at this point. I'm like, all right, cool, boom, yes, let's try to make this happen. This is gonna be hard to do because you guys waited way too late to try to make this move. Because when you look at who was left, you had Natalie, you had Mara, you had Mark, you had Eric, Johnny, Tara. Mara, Mark, and Eric, why are they still here? And Natalie. Who are they all close with? I mean, it showed you right there. I think Natalie would have made sense to murder because one, she is smart, would be the one to figure it out, but also you probably could have thrown people off a little bit more. Like you had more wiggle room to game if you would have gotten rid of her, because it's like, oh, it couldn't have been Rob because y'all are close. And it would have been believable because it's still believable now. But when you do Kristen, who is, although she is loyal, and it still can say that it wasn't Rob, Natalie is going to be the person to jump, like strategically be like, wait a minute, who's all here? Why are y'all all still here? And think the way of a gamer. So you allowed a gamer to start gaming in a point where you really just want to keep those people that are bad at the game in the game so that you can just it's an easier path that way if you would have went that route. But with Natalie here, it does threaten your game because them gamer wheels are going to start turning. So Tara, she has fully got on board. She has told Johnny. So Natalie's like, okay, I believe you. Like, no, this makes sense. Could it now they finally want to bring up what Candace said? Was that a breadcrumb? Because she kept voting for him. Was this traitor on traitor? Why haven't we ever looked and examined that? Like they actually start unpeeling what was going on. And I'm like, yes, thank you. For the love of God, we have been waiting for you guys to turn on your brains. Hello. But the first thing they got there and do is go tell Mara. Now y'all know Mara, like, y'all go and tell her? Y'all really go and tell her? So she gonna go run into that. And so, because he got 2 votes. Like, I was like, see, so y'all ain't even doing this even tactfully. Like, and I did kind of expect a little bit more from Natalie in this situation, because I would have thought she would have said, no. Let's talk to Johnny. Let's talk to Mark first. Maybe we only bring it up in front of Mara because we may not have Mara's vote. That's what it should have happened. And at this point, you don't know anything about Eric. So maybe I would even say from their perspective, even that would have made more sense than saying Tara. So, it's crazy to me. So they bring it up. Mark does. It's kind of like with Mark. You can lead them to water, but they won't drink. That is Mark. Like Mark is given these breadcrumbs, and he goes, I don't know. every time. So he hears the points, and he goes, well, no, you're right, because they all agree, including Mara, why am I still here? Like they do. So it's like, okay, you're here. Hello. But I do feel like from Mara's perspective, why would she, if he wants to take her all the way, why would she go against that at that point from her game and from her perspective? Um Mark could easily Mark, I think it could be a little bit trickier because again, you have to look at the board and know that it has to be a male and you might be targeted because you're a male. But he also points out that, like, oh yeah, he does point out with Johnny and Tara, because he didn't know if it was Johnny, and that, oh yeah, they're a duo now, and that's the thing. And I'm like, well, you should have thought about this before. Like now, like you're bringing up the dynamics of the Faithfuls, and it is way too late for that. Like, yes, you're right, they are a duo. You should have been thinking about this when it came to the game, and you did not. And they kind of waited too late. They kind of waited too late. They kind of did. I mean, they kind of waited too late here because it's less people. So there's 6 votes. He now has 7, 8. He makes 8. That is a lot of power. So it's kind of like, or I'm sorry, I think there would be 7 votes. So he has an extra vote because his vote, or no, he gets 2 extra votes. I think including his vote, if I'm not mistaken. If you know, let me know in the comments. But either way, because it's not a lot of people, he could very much change who goes home. Like he has a deciding vote. So it's just like, why would you all, like, y'all shouldn't have waited this late. But even with that, this play, I felt like at this moment should have been an all or nothing type of strategy, because if we're looking at the board, which is what people refuse to do, and you don't have to be a gamer, but it's just basic statistics. Like if I'm looking at the board and I see who is left, I see that Mara is really close with Rob. I see that there, especially from Mark's perspective, I see that there is Johnny and there is Tara. Those are 2 duos that threaten me to get the money. I also see that Eric is here. I don't know where Eric is. And then I have Natalie, who is also very close to Rob. I need to knock people off to increase my chances of getting to the end. Who are those major threats? For Mark, it is Rob or Tara and Johnny at that point. I would say more than Natalie, because who's here at the end game? Rob has more of the influence now. And I believe he knows that Rob has an extra vote. So that's where it's like, okay, we need to do an all or nothing strategy. I think when it comes to Tara and Johnny, the likelihood that you two will end up in the end game together is very low. So at this point, we just need to do what we can to try to maximize, but we probably won't make it because you have revealed and told everyone that you guys are a duo. You probably will not be together. So at this point, y'all got nothing to lose, because one of y'all gonna probably be murdered, or they're gonna say that one of you is a traitor, and y'all not gonna win that money together. It's not happening, especially when you see that Rob has all his people with him. It's not going to happen. So it's all or nothing strategy, quite frankly. And Eric, right? If I'm Eric, this is how you know he would have been a bad favorite from the start. If I'm Eric, I would try to get rid of Rob. He did all the work all season long, and we got one more round table. Baby, thank you for your service. Yeah, get him out. You should have absolutely, when you saw that train go, get on top and ride. Like, just, that's the easiest way to get the money. Easiest way. And if he was a better liar, oh yeah, I would have let them think Rob. And that would have just been, oh, wow, we're all faithfuls. You guys know I'm a faithful. You guys know I put myself out there. You guys know. He could have easily made that work for him. And because I'm just not understanding the hardcore loyalty at this point. It's one day. Yeah, I'm sorry. No. Absolutely not. Like, what? How does it truly benefit you to go all the way with Rob? Does it, when you saw that all the other traders were pushed out because of Rob? I'm just saying, like, it just makes no sense. So we get to the game. Moving along, we and in the car, like I said, Tara and Johnny are like, okay, we think it's Rob. And of course, Mara's going and running and telling that to the other group, and they're just like eating it up. And I'm just like, oh my God, y'all are slow. And so we get to the game. I'm not gonna lie, I actually liked this game because it felt like it was worth it. I like the structure because, okay, yes, we're getting money, but you had something to lose. And these competitions are so easy, it's not really like an important part of the show, in my opinion. Like, I'm like, okay, we're here playing games, whoop de woo. Like, I just feel like they need to explore that structure a little bit more. But I did like the fact that, okay, you had to go and find the money, um amount of money, and you had to sit and come back and sit as quick as you can, but we're removing chairs each time you come back. And if you win, you get a shield. You're protected from being murdered. So I did like that element to it. I thought that structure was good, and it was probably the most entertaining one we've had so far. So I really did enjoy that, and I did like that. Um, I did see though that like Eric didn't have to spin. I kind of feel like that was a little bit unfair. I'm not gonna lie, because it was like, okay, Mara had to literally spin, and you got to sit out. And I get it, like people get nauseous and stuff, but like just wait to reset the game. But I feel like it's not fair for him to just tap out like that. Like, I didn't think that was fair, because it was an advantage because you were not dizzy and you just ran and you were able to find while she had to catch her bear. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that was kind of like, that wasn't really fair, but okay. And but I liked it. So this is when we start to see Rob kind of crack a little bit, because he is feeling defeated. He is an emotional person. I don't know why people are like, he is an emotional person. His moves have been emotion. Like, let's be clear, they weren't necessary. So he doesn't win the shield. This is the first time he is visibly upset. And you would think people would clock that and be like, Rob is usually chill. Why is he so upset that he didn't win a shield? Because again, if we take a step back, Rob is a person that should have been murdered. Like, Rob would have been the perfect person to be murdered. Why is he still here? Guys, like, oh God, it's right here. Eric wins it. Big smile on Rob's face. He's cool. Come on, like, I can't, like, it's so annoying. It's so freaking annoying. So that happens. He also gets into a little tiff with Mark. Now, if I'm Mark, why didn't that set off an alarm? Because why are you now getting short and mad with me for playing the game or doing what I needed to do to go to the next round, and you're getting short with me? Hello? Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. Dumb, 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 and dumb. I just don't get it. I really don't. And whew, I almost crashed out, y'all, watching this show. I almost crashed out because I should have been put on these shades, because they're all idiots. They're all dumb. Oh God. So, and I'm gonna keep them on for this next section, because yeah, we finna, yeah. So that happens. We get to the round tables. Tara is, she of course has made fully push Natalie to being like, it's Rob, to sit and think. So now Natalie is clocked in. She's ready to think and play this game. Okay, she's here. She's like, all right, okay, let's go and play this game. Well, Johnny has hesitation for some reason, because it's like, whoa, what do you have differently? You think Natalie, but why? not Rob. For some reason, Johnny is expressing hesitation and it makes Tara express hesitation. And it's like, but what's interesting is Johnny has already thought that it could potentially be Rob already. Now you backpedal and you think that it could potentially be Natalie because I guess can't because she didn't vote for Candace, but everyone did. Okay, that doesn't mean that she's a traitor. And I need y'all, and this is what's irritating me the most is their reasoning is, oh, because she's so smart and she can strategize. She's a gamer. That is not good enough reason for someone to be a traitor. We have to dig deeper than that, guys. Like, I just it's one extreme to the next. You look at information that doesn't matter or is just in minute versus, oh, they're such a gamer strategy. They must be a traitor. That doesn't mean that if you can also use that to your advantage as a faithful. So I'm like, does Johnny think that Rob's gonna take him to the end? Because he's not. He's probably gonna murder you. I don't know, but for some reason he talks Tara out of it. So Tara goes, well, I'm just gonna take a little seat. I'm gonna take it back because we got a lot of heat last week because we were wrong about Steven. So I'm actually gonna take a back seat. So you spent the whole day gassing up Natalie about the vote being robbed, and you want to sit here and say, well, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to just let her have it. But you started this. So I said, oh, it's about to be some, this about to be some buffoonery. This about to be some buffoonery real bad. Get to the round table. Rob knows like his name is potentially going to come up because of Mara, obviously. And so we know at this point he's going to use his dagger. He's going to use his power. Well, Tara speaks up first. So I go, "Oh, okay." So she going to set the tone. Maybe she thought about it. Maybe she said, "No. I'm just going to do it, whatever." This girl really goes, because last week, we spoke up, and I just feel like I really just want to sit back on this round table and just hear everybody's points because I just felt so embarrassed from last week. So if anybody else, I would just love to hear from you all. If I was Natalie, I would walk out. Like, I would walk out because what do you mean? Like, you hype this girl up the whole day, you gonna leave her out to dry? So the conversation kicks off. Mark is starting to ask questions. Of course, Rob is going to hop on the train if it leads to Natalie because that's who he wants it to be. Mind you, Mark has completely not acknowledged the blow up that Rob had, didn't ask him to explain why was he so upset, why he's never shown that. He didn't give him anything. But Natalie comes, she states her case. And let me tell you something. She laid out that case now. She laid out that case. I will say, but it's just a situation where she may have been too late. So I'm trying to find what she said more intent because I want to make sure I get it clear on what she said. So she says this. She says, okay, I understand what you're saying, that you may think that I'm a traitor because I'm a gamer and I'm strategic, which again is not really a good move or a good thing to say. But if she was a traitor, why would she? Because they're saying like, oh, it would be smart for you to get rid of all the gamers. But she's like, well, no, I would want people around me that I trust. Look up who is all here. These aren't people that I necessarily trust. These are people that Rob trusts. Because you have Mara, you have Mark here, and then we know Tweedledee and Tweedledum aren't going to come up with anything. And then Natalie, because he's close to her. She was really tight with him. So she was like, look at who's all here. Who does it benefit the most that we are all here? So, so, you would think that would say, huh, Who else? Mara brings up a point because again, Mara gonna defend her man, her man, her man, her man. I don't know because you're just really smart. Maybe that's what you want us to think. And I don't know. And Mark is like, yeah, maybe that's what you want us to think. Mind you, Rob just blew up on you because he didn't get a dagger. He's never done a shield because he's never done that before. But he already has 2 votes. So that he can use for the last night. Like, please. So then we go back to the Candace vote, right? Candace goes, or we go. They say, well, let's talk about the Candace vote. Do you think that she could have left a breadcrumb? Because why would she vote for Rob? We know her to be, even though she ended up being a traitor, and we caught that she was a consistent player at the end of the day, and she did vote Rob twice, and they were. I hope you guys can see me. Um, Sorry guys, my camera died. So it's just like you guys know, and I hope you guys could hear me when I had that up. But it's like you guys know, like that was logic that of what was said. Like Candace is not a dumb person. She is a person who knows the game, who did vote intentionally, and you guys chose to completely ignore that and go like and really question it, like not sit and think about that of who you're talking about. Sorry guys, camera died. So I hope you guys can hear me as well as you can, because we've had to switch to our computer. But it just does not make any sense. It doesn't make sense as to why you guys would omit that and not sit there and think about it. So Tara, at this point, Natalie gets upset because she's like, Tara, you're the reason that we sat here and are thinking about Rob, and you are being quiet and you're not really speaking. So what is going on? And then the attention kind of goes back on Tara a little bit. She gets some heat for it because it's like, which she should have, because she was like, so was this a ploy for you to get rid of me because you wanted me to convince me that it was Rob? And I think that was at that point Natalie trying to shift it because she saw that the heat was not letting up on her, and it was a better strategy at that point to throw Tara on the bus. But it was very justified because Tara didn't say anything and she should have said something. And so Tara's shaking and her doing her white woman thing, because that's just what it was, trying to play victim. And it was like, no, you should have backed her up. If Tara would have came and spoke up and stayed on the points that she had stated and added to that, I think that there would have been more validity, especially when it came with Mark, at least. And I think that Eric maybe would have jumped ship and maybe thought about like, okay, well, there's no point of me staying on this Rob ship if it seems like it's dying. And if you have Johnny speak up and then you see Marcus being convinced, like there's a world where Eric would have said, well, I'm just going to go with it. This is our last banishment table. Why not? And so it's just like, because either way, even if you gotten rid of Rob and people look at you next, that can happen either way. You're still here, and I do think people are going to look at both. I would at this point. You should be looking at the both of them. You should be looking at the both of them. You should be looking at the both of them when it comes to the end of this game and seeing who's a traitor or not. Like without a doubt. And so she was wrong for that. That was so low down. Like she was absolutely wrong for that. And then you gonna go and vote her out? You started this. Then you want to cry and get sympathy. Miss me with all of that. I was so mad. Like, and I was with Natalie. Like, absolutely, you were wrong. You should have not did that. Like, if you were not gonna have her back, start something and don't want to finish it. So we get that. Johnny at the end of the episode does recognize and say that he does think that it is Eric and Rob. But then why didn't you say something? And it's like, I do feel like some players think that, oh, we can get to the end, we can vote him out. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure that either Rob or Tar are going to be probably Johnny, I'm sorry, will probably be murdered. Like, so why take that risk? Why take the risk of you potentially getting murdered that night? You don't have a shield. Eric has a shield, and you think it is Eric and Rob. So anybody can be murdered. Why would you take that risk if you think that you can maybe banish him at the last fire pit? You better hope you get that far. All his friends are there. Like, so at this point, we can really call it and say that it is Rob's game. We really can say that. We can really call it. It is what it is. Because the Faithfuls just have been horrible. Absolutely terrible. So those are my thoughts on the episode. It's a lot. And we'll be back for the season finale to talk about it a lot more. But it's just real bad really bad Faithful gameplay at this point. So that's all I had. Again, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry that the audio got a little wonky at the end. We'll be back and up for next time. Again, you can follow me at the Lions Den Podcast or Lauren.Ashley on my personal account on both TikTok and on Instagram. And look out for my recaps over on TikTok as well. But until then, thank you guys so much. Bye.